Welcome to another Famous Friday. I believe whatever goal you have, whatever obstacles in front of you, the easiest way to accomplish it is to model success. Find someone who's already overcome that problem, apply their strategies to make it work for you. So today's lesson is from Chris Gardner, who went from being a homeless man to being a multimillionaire. And his lesson is don't quit. So Chris Gardner, he had everything stacked against him when he was growing up. He didn't know who his father was. He was in and out of foster homes because his mother was in and out of prison. She had tried to set fire to her house with Chris Gardner's stepfather inside, and so she was arrested for it. Chris Gardner didn't have any positive male role models growing up, and so he bounced from foster home to foster home to foster home. He experimented in drugs and alcohol. He had every reason not to be successful. Right? Everything was against him, but he didn't quit. He wanted to rise up. He wanted to get out of that life that he had and create something new for himself. So he took a job as an assistant in a medical research lab, and he was earning $8,000 a year. He got a girlfriend, he had a son, and he found out that, you know what, $8,000 a year, that's not enough to survive. But he didn't know what else to do. He was struggling because he had no no savings, nobody told him what to do. He was just trying to get by, just trying to survive. But the one thing he knew was he wasn't going to quit. His life changed when he saw a man on the street pull up in a Ferrari, get out in a really nice suit, and he asked the man, "What do you do as a career?" And the guy told him that he was a stockbroker. And from that second, Chris Gardner wanted to become a stockbroker. The only problem was, he had no education, he had no contacts, no connections, he didn't understand stocks, he wasn't investing in stocks, he was older than most of the people who are entering into that field right now. Everything was against him, but he didn't quit. He started working with that stockbroker, just getting to know him, and found out that there were training positions at his firm. And so for the next couple months, he pushed off his job. He canceled meetings, he canceled appointments to go to these interviews to train, to learn about their training program. He racked up $1,200 in parking tickets going to the meetings. And eventually, finally, after months, he was accepted into their training program. He's all excited. Finally, I made it, right? I beat the odds. I made it. I'm into the training program. I'm sending this new course for my life. This is awesome. He shows up for work the first day, and the guy who hired him was fired. And he finds out that there's no place for him at this firm. He had put everything into it. He quit his job after learning he'd be accepted. He quit his job, shows up, and there's no job to go to. You think that's bottom, right? Like, how can things get any worse? Well, it got worse because he was arrested because he didn't pay his $1,200 in parking tickets. And the judge threw him in jail for 10 days. That's not even the worst part. He comes home and his girlfriend had moved out and took their son with her. That's the low of the low for Chris Gardner. But he still didn't quit. Where most people at that point may say, I think the universe is trying to send me a message. He didn't quit. He kept going on his dream. He found another company that had a training program. He applied. He got accepted to the training program. There was a problem though. It was unpaid. He wasn't going to make any money. He'd have to work really hard and wouldn't get paid anything. He didn't have any savings. He didn't have any rich uncles to rely on. It was only himself. And then his girlfriend comes back, drops off their son, and says, he's yours. I don't want him anymore. And he takes over full custody for his son. So he's got no money coming in. He's got this training job. He's got this son he's got to look after. And the only thing that he has is he takes a small part-time thing selling medical equipment that earns him $300 to $400 a month. That's all he has to survive. And he had to make the choice. Do I provide shelter for my son or do I give him food? And he chose food. And he bounced from shelter to church to wherever they would take them in. And he got up every morning and was one of the first people to go to the office for that training job. And was one of the last people to leave. And where most people who are doing sales calls, a great day might be 100 calls, Chris Gardner's goal was 200. Unheard of. crazy work ethic, crazy productivity. He woke up, got to the office, pounded the calls until everything was closed, and then went back and found whatever homeless shelter would take him and his son. Where most people would have quit long time ago on their dream, Chris Gardner kept going, even though he had every single odd stacked against him. And through the perseverance, through the work, he made it through. He got hired. He passed the training program. He was able to pull himself out of poverty. Then he applied that same work ethic to launching his own business. And he grew it. He eventually sold it in a multi-million-dollar exit. A lot of people feel like they have the odds stacked against them. You may feel you have the odds stacked against you. And you tell yourself, I don't have the resources, I don't have the connections, I don't have the education, I don't have the money. And you quit. Successful entrepreneurs don't quit. Even though you may have everything stacked against you, if you believe in your dream, even when it doesn't make sense, if you believe in it, then you have to keep going. Don't quit. And it may lead to a multi-million-dollar exit for you too. Oh, and that Ferrari that Chris Gardner loves so much, he ended up buying his own Ferrari, bought it from Michael Jordan, and changed the license plate to not MJ. Believe.
From the time I was 8 years old, when it snowed in Kensington, Maryland, I would grab a shovel and head outside and start making $5 a sidewalk. When the grass grew in the summer, I had, clean cut KP lawn service. When I finally learned to drive, I was, parking cars. I learned I was a pretty good salesperson as my brother returned from going down to Guatemala for 3 months. And he came back and he had all these little, those little bracelets you'd see like at Grateful Dead shows. And he came back and enlisted the help of my brother Colin, who was 14, and myself, who was 12 at the time, and took us to the parking lots of the Grateful Dead show to see who could sell the most bracelets, $2 a piece, 3 for $5. And after about 3 hours of we'd separated, came back and met each other, we started comparing notes of how my 20-year-old brother did versus my 14 versus 12-year-old. My brother Colin, he sold the first couple and then started feeling guilty about the profit margin, so he gave the rest away. My brother Scott, I think he traded a couple for beers. And I was like, I've got $450 in my pocket. I've been sold out for an hour. You guys are killing me. Give me the rest of the inventory. I'm going to go sell it. In 1999, we had this movie coming out called Any Given Sunday, starring Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Charlton Heston. It was like this 5-star cast, Oliver Stone movie. And the idea of it was to be the official apparel of that movie. We were just coming off a $1.3 million year. We had a tough decision to make. People were going to see our product and apparel in the movie, and they're going to see this logo, but they were going to have no idea where they could get it or access it. And so we took a bet, and we ran an ad in ESPN, the magazine, that had just come out. The circulation was pretty small, but it was going to cost us $25,000. And the $25,000 was basically like everything we had plus. And I remember holding a company meeting with 12 of us sitting around a table and saying, what do you think? And the general consensus was, we need more fabric, we need more machinery, we need more people, we need more this. And it was like, you know what, let's throw the dice and we're gonna run this ad. And we ran this ad at December 25th, 26th of 1999. And from a $1.3 million company in 1999, the first 3 weeks of that ad coming out net us about $750,000, close to $800,000. And little did we know, we were running out of money. But had we not run that ad, would we have been able to do $5 million the next year and keep going? So that was a good bet. And what I can tell you is lessons learned from that as well. And the next time I figured this is easy, all I have to do is run an ad and we're going to get $800,000 in sales. I love this business. The next ad we ran in March, we did about $6,000 on it. So it was about, we learned some lessons along the way too. It's great, it's a dream come true. It's one of those things that, sitting there, it wasn't like Under Armour woke up one day and said, what an amazing brand. I can't believe the logo. This whole thing's perfect. There were 5 years of people going, Under what? Under Armour. Who? Armor All. What is this thing? Hi, it's Kevin playing from Under Armour. I don't get it. So the idea that it's become, sort of synonymous, it goes to show you is that nothing happens overnight. I thought it would be, a much faster path to being this. And again, it wasn't I had this perfect picture of what it would look like. Most importantly, I never believed it couldn't happen. And I never limited myself from what it could actually all be when it all came together. If anything, I is truly just at the beginning. We're just getting started. And so the fact there's an athlete who's today playing in the NFL that was, loving in his Under Armour, and it made him stronger and it made him feel better and empowered, as a smaller boy, I hope that there's young kids coming up today that are trying our products, which are that much better, that much more advanced. We have that much more knowledge base into making themselves better going forward too. So I hope we inspire a lot of young boys and girls.